down a child, shoot a child in the back. It just kind of it's very insulting.
The whole community just shuddered to see a child shot. Just brought out even more anger, more outrage, and yet we couldn't express that because we didn't want to incite whoever was doing this to do even more, to shoot more children.
It was the longest week in Montgomery County Police Chief Moose's career. A sniper killer had shot 8 people, 6 fatally. The community was paralyzed with fear. All public outdoor events were canceled. The local football and baseball seasons were suspended, and all the schools in the area were keeping children locked inside. Heavily armed police and helicopters monitored the local schools. Then at the school where the boy was shot, Moose and his team got their first major break. Police uncovered a cryptic piece of evidence. However, they couldn't contain their find. The information was leaked to the hungry press.
It could be a critical clue in the sniper shootings. The gunman reportedly has left a message for police.
A tarot card, the death card. Written on it, "Dear policeman, I am God." Channel 9 reports the tarot card was found by police.
The media failed to report what else was written on the tarot card. It said, "Do not release to the press."
The chief was upset because we knew that said not to be released to the press. Were there going to be consequences for this by the shooter for having done what he said not to do? Was this in an effort to him to communicate to us? And had we violated that relationship that the shooter Meyer tried to start with us? So he was angry with the media for having put it in there and angry with law enforcement for having leaked it to the media.
I have not received any message that the citizens of Montgomery County want Channel 9 or the Washington Post or any other media outlet to solve this case. If they do, then let me know. We will go and do other police work, and we will turn this case over to the media.
It was just like everything that we wanted to try was put out for consumption. You know, you're kind of going, well, is it like, does the media want this to continue?
As head of the sniper task force, Chief Moose was being pushed to the limit.
We're waiting to hear from you. Can you say if you've heard from the person you're communicating with?
Anything about the investigation, that kind of detail would be inappropriate.
The intense media interest in the case was becoming overwhelming.
Sir, the men and women involved in this.
If Chief Moose projects a sense to the public that this investigation is out of control, or that they have no real information about what's going on and who's behind it, then with a few more shootings, I think we get to a situation where the public will begin to panic.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think it's too much to say that you could reach a level of pandemonium out here and frustration that will be very hard to contain.
With no major leads, only setbacks in the investigation, there were calls for the FBI to take over Moose's case. President Bush agreed that federal support should be available for the sniper manhunt. He sent seasoned FBI investigator, Special Agent Gary Bald, to assist.
It was an interesting situation for me because I'd never met Chief Moose before, and I was very sensitive to the fact that he would think I was coming in to take the investigation over.
President Bush backed Chief Moose and confirmed he would continue to lead the sniper case. Special Agent Bald called up the Rapid Response Unit. They arrived with a blank check and within 24 hours set up a fully operational sniper command center.
There is a unit in the FBI that is responsible for rapidly deploying and setting up a command post structure to support field operations. It was much easier to bring those resources from another part of the FBI that has it basically in a box, and they show up and set it up. It really comes together very quickly. There are a number of other resources that the FBI brings to bear in a situation like that, including behavioral scientists, which would help me in understanding the type of criminal that we're dealing with. You may be familiar with it through Silence of the Lambs. The scientists provide a profile of the people likely to be responsible for the killings. They'll base that on prior shooting incidents, prior serial killers.
In the newly established Joint Operations Center, over 400 local and federal police worked round the clock. The Sniper Reward Fund, set up on the first day, had reached $237,000. It doubled in one day after the child was shot. Police were swamped with calls to their hotline, over 2,000 a day. Despite the high number, there were few good leads. Tension mounted as the community waited helplessly for another killing.
From a good distance away from that Sunoco station, they're keeping us back, but there's a FBI helicopter, untold FBI helicopter up above me, surveying the scene. We're told that one man is dead. He was at the pumps at the gas station, shot dead at the scene. No apparent sign of an assailant.
2 days after the boy was shot, the sniper claimed his 9th victim. 53-year-old Dean Myers was killed by a single shot to the chest. Following that murder, Chief Moose and the investigators detected a change in the sniper's pattern. The killer seemed to be selecting targets that were close to highways, offering quick escape routes. Two days later in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the killer made his most brazen move to date. With a police officer standing just 50 yards away, Kenneth Bridges was shot and killed. Eyewitnesses gave the police a promising new lead.
Right after the shooting in Fredericksburg, there comes two witnesses, actually, who see what's described as a white van, and they believe is somehow related to the shooting. Each said they saw a white van with a ladder rack on top.
It was Chief Moose's best lead to date. But motor vehicle records showed over 100,000 white vans registered in the Washington, D.C. area alone.
It had the unfortunate impact of having the media conclude that the people responsible for the shootings were operating those vehicles. And despite Chief Moose's repeated reminders, the media didn't want to take no for an answer on that. And so it constantly was played as these are the vehicles that were
being used by the snipers. I think the impact of that was that when shooting scenes occurred after that, people looked up and the first white van they saw or the first box truck they saw consumed their attention, and they may not have seen other vehicles that were in the area.
A second weekend passed without a shooting. The press speculated that the sniper was a family man only able to kill during the week. Local people were terrified. Washington was a city under siege. Community leaders advised people to avoid wooded areas and use covered parking when shopping. In the covered car park of a DIY store, a woman and her husband were loading packages into their car. Linda Franklin was then shot, the sniper's 11th victim. She died at the scene.
Anonymous complaint of a white Chevy Astro van occupied by a white male.
After that killing, the sniper went eerily quiet. 5 tense days passed without another shooting. The police were besieged with calls from the public. Most offered information, but there were also crank callers who claimed to be the sniper. After nearly a week of silence, the killer decided to contact the police.
Good morning. Don't say anything, just listen. Where are the people that are causing the killing in your area? Look on the terror card. It says, "Call me God. Do not release the press." We have called you 3 times before, trying to set up negotiations. We have gotten no response. People have died.
The police operator didn't realize the significance of the call.
Yes, sir. Any
Get your people.
that Montgomery County Police Hotline. We're not investigating a crime. Would you like the number?
The killer hung up. Another opportunity to communicate was lost. On Saturday morning, Washington again buried its dead. Vietnam veteran Dean Myers was laid to rest. Saturday night approached. It seemed like it was going to be a third quiet weekend for Moose and his team. But then, breaking news.
A shooting in Ashland, Virginia. This breaking story, not known yet whether this is connected to the sniper investigation. There are also reports that police are looking for a white Econoline van with a ladder rack. WTOP.
For the first time, the sniper had attacked on a weekend. In the small town of Ashland, Virginia, 80 miles south of Washington, D.C., the killer had shot his 12th victim.
Now that is military. Yeah, that's military right there.
They were getting back into the car. He was shot in the stomach. He's apparently going to make it. He's in stable but serious condition, still in surgery. They think it may have been from the woods.
Okay, 6-4, we'll do that. Shamrock 105, heavy to maintain 2000.
Has a determination been made whether this is the sniper that's been in the Washington, D.C. metro area, or is it not? No, there is no evidence right now to conclude that. Everyone is a potential